Hello everyone, I hope that your day is going well. Welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time, and welcome back to our old-time viewers. Today we're going to resume our regular Thursday lectures, and we've got lots of exciting things in store for you. But before we get started, let me just briefly introduce myself. So, as some of you may already know, my name is Victoria, and I'm the Outreach Coordinator for the EducationUSA network here in Ukraine. And of course, we are part of the global network of the U.S. Department of State, which consists of over 435 international student advising centers in more than 180 countries. As the official source on U.S. higher education, we always offer accurate, comprehensive, and unbiased information about opportunities to study at accredited colleges and universities in the United States. We understand that the process of applying to U.S. colleges and universities is quite different from that in Ukraine. So we are here to help you with any step of the process, answer questions from beginning to end. And today we're going to talk about studying in the United States as a Ukrainian student. Have you ever dreamed of making your desire, your wish of studying in the United States a reality? Do you want to know how to make the most out of your US college experience? Which resources for students are available on campus? And what are some of the do's and don'ts in the United States? Well, we will talk about all of these things and more in today's session. It is my pleasure to welcome Viktor Lutsyshen, EducationUSA ambassador, Ukrainian student who is currently studying political sciences at the Colleджі Холі Кросс in Worcester, Massachusetts, and who will give you the inside scoop on the application process to American colleges and universities, essay writing, seeking funding, and talk about what it's really like to study in the United States. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us with any of your questions and put them down in the chat box below. I'll be sure to monitor them and so that we do not miss a single one. Viktor, it's lovely to have you here with us. Please take it away. The floor is yours.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to be here. My name is Viktor. I'm a student from Ukraine, Kherson, and I study in the Colleджі Холі Кросс. And I thought for this short introduction section, I will talk about a little bit about my experience, what motivated me to study in the United States, and why I decided to go to my school. So I study in the Colleджі Холі Кросс. It's a rather small liberal arts school, only about 3,000 people. And I really love it here. So, and before I talk about my school, I thought I would explain why I decided to go to the United States in general, why I was so passionate about it. And I think for me personally, it goes back to when I was in grade 9, and I was very lucky to have a 2-week opportunity to study in the summer school in the UK, actually. And you might be wondering, how is that connected? But the thing is, it was my first international experience, and I just fell in love with the sense of being in an international community, meeting people from all over the world, all countries, different cultures. I just found it absolutely exhilarating. So as soon as I came back home, I thought, I will study abroad no matter what. That was my motivation from the get-go. So in the next couple of years, I did a lot of research, a lot of studying, and what I ended up doing was actually finishing my high school in Canada, and for grade 11 and 12. And while I was staying there, I had to be doing a lot of research on my um, future education, right? I had to decide, do I want to stay in Canada? Do I want to go to United States or maybe somewhere else in general? And I also had to decide what kind of school I would like to go to. And I think when you decide what school is for you, there are a few things you want to consider. So for me, for example, first was, what is my area of interest, right? Then what kind of environment do I like? What kind of campus do I enjoy? And things like that. So, for example, for me, because I already was in a somewhat small Canadian school where we only had about 500 people, I really enjoyed the sense of a tight community where you know different people, you spend time with them, you know your teachers well. The classes can only be sometimes 10 to 20 people, so you really get to know each other and communicate. And I knew I really loved that because I also had experiences before where you sit in a classroom with 100 people and you don't really get to talk to your teacher or professor. So I knew that's what I really enjoyed. And that is at the very center of what a liberal arts school is, because when you go to United States, you have to make a decision if you want to go to a very big school that might have 30, 40, 60,000 people on campus, or a smaller liberal arts school that ranges from 1,000 to a few thousand students on campus. And uh, I decided that that was the direction I wanted to go with. And another thing was considering my area of interest. And even though I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to study just yet, um, I knew that I was interested in political science and international relations, also economics. So, of course, I was looking at different schools that might have very good departments for those majors. But another thing that was very important is understanding if you know for a fact what you want to study, or you feel like you would like to explore more. And even though I had some interest going into it, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to study just yet. So for me, uh, liberal arts school presented an incredible opportunity because, as opposed to a lot of bigger schools, not all of them, but a lot, you get to really experiment, and you get a lot of time to see what you really like and don't like. So, for example, in my school and many other liberal arts school, you don't have to declare your major for 2 years. You get to take classes you really enjoy, experiment, go into completely different fields, right? So for me, in my first year, I tried psychology, I tried art, I tried history, I tried some political science, I tried some mathematics. Uh, and it was an incredible experience. And then in the next year or so, I decided that what I really enjoyed was political science and economics. And those were the two majors I picked, and I stuck with them for quite a while. However, in the next year, I realized that I wasn't that much into economics. I loved it, but I didn't like it enough to be for it to be my major, and I was able to simply drop it and just stick with political science. And I think this is an example of great flexibility. That even if you pick your major, you can still change it, or you can try something different. So there were two reasons behind my decision for my major, because first of all, I love political science, but another was that I realized that another incredible opportunity that American schools provide you is that you can really try a lot of things even when you already have a major. So for me, I felt very limited just taking classes related to two of those majors. I felt that I want to still keep trying things, right? So I had my political science major, but I felt like a lot of history classes might supplement it and enhance my vision of things I study in my major. I also took some art history because I like art and I like history, and you can still find ways in which it relates to your major, right? So that was the reason I decided to go to liberal arts school, and it has been an incredible experience so far. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your introduction, Victor. It's wonderful to learn about your experience studying in the United States. And once again, I would like to encourage our viewers to put their question in the comments. But while we wait for questions, could you tell me a bit about, once again, your experience applying to the US? Was it difficult to get admitted to a US college?
For sure. So I would say that application process is somewhat complicated, although it depends on you in some way. But for me, it definitely was. And one of the major reasons behind it was that, when I started looking into American schools, one of the greatest challenges that came up, and I'm sure it will be the same for a lot of students, is that pretty much every university was completely out of my price range, right? I did not have a budget to just easily go to any American school I wanted. So the solution was that I had to apply with financial aid. And a lot of universities provide financial aid, but it's not very easy. And the major reason behind that is normally when you apply as an international student with financial aid, it does mean that you have fewer chances of getting in, unfortunately. And even though there are a few schools that are need blind for international students, meaning that they will not even look whether you're requesting financial aid or not before admitting you, and then they might sponsor your entire study. There are a few schools like that, unfortunately, for international students. And the ones that do offer options like that, they're the greatest schools in the United States, Harvard, Princeton, a couple others. So you can't, even if you're the greatest applicant ever, you cannot rely that you will be admitted to schools like that. So that was a challenge. So for me, the way I countered that challenge was I was applying to a lot of different schools. I was literally applying to 20 different schools, which is the maximum for a common application. And that's quite a lot because a lot of my American peers, when I talk to them, they apply to 5 to 10, and 10 is being considered quite a lot. I was applying to 20, right? Which means that each school I had to write a few supplementary essays. Some schools might have some additional requests or tasks or essays that are very out there, something you might not expect. So it was very stressful, and it's something you have to prepare for. But I don't want to scare anyone. It's definitely manageable. The most important part being that you have to start as early as possible. And the reason why is because even if you're applying only to 5 schools, there's honestly no such thing as a perfect application. You can have 10 years and you can keep making it better and better and better, right? So the more time you allow yourself to work in that, the better you will be able to make your application. And some other things is also allow yourself time to deal with things like teacher recommendations, right? Because, for example, a lot of Ukrainian students encounter a problem where recommendations need to be in English, but your teacher that you want to ask might not be able to speak or write English. So then you have to figure that out. Maybe they can ask their English teacher to help. What I did, for example, is we had it written in Ukrainian, and then we took it to a special agency that translated it to English, and it was stamped. So it's just a small example of problems that might come up. So it's very important to start early, but do not be afraid of that process. It's pretty straightforward. There's a lot of resources out there that you should utilize, such as Education USA, and it can be pretty manageable.
Thank you so much, Victor, for sharing your insights into the application process and sharing your personal experience. Just to reiterate what Victor has said, Education USA can be a great tool if you're looking into exploring opportunities to study in the United States, or you're unsure what financial aid is available out there for Ukrainian students, or you're just looking for a consultation in order to get a really clear understanding of what the US application process is really like. So you can always sign up for a free consultation, whether online or in our office in Kyiv, and of course get professional help from one of our wonderful advisors. So moving forward with the questions, I have a follow-up question on your application process, and that would be, what do you think is the one thing that helped you stand out with your application and really made your college accept you and offer you a place at their student body?
Of course, I think there are a few major things, but a couple that I would highlight is my first is that I already had a little bit of international experience, and like I said, I had opportunity to study a little bit in England, then in my Canadian school, and I was doing quite well in school, so that was definitely a major part of it, but only a small part. And I would say a very big chunk of work that it allowed me to succeed was. Understanding that this application process is quite different from anything you encountered before, and it requires a very unique approach. And what I mean by that is when you write it, you should not think about it as just another essay you need to write to get a good grade, or something you just do to make yourself look as good as possible, which of course you want to do make yourself look better, but the thing is the real goal for the admissions offices is to see what kind of person you really are and what makes you special. And everybody is special in some way or another, and it's just important to show it. And the important thing here is that you yourself really need to understand who you are and what makes you special, and how you personally will be able to contribute to a school environment in the United States. And it might sound a little cheesy, but even things like when I started my application, it was a long time before I got to writing my essays. First thing, I just literally sat down and just brainstormed and went through all my experiences in life, thought what really was, what were some decisive moments in my life, what really changed me, what motivated me to study, what I think really my real strengths are, and what my real weaknesses are. And I think a lot of people before applying to universities, they never really think about it that way. So it's beneficial to do it even for your own sake. But for application, it's absolutely indispensable. And I know it sounds a little broad, but it's just kind of how it is. So, and when you get to this point where you really understand it, you will be able to express it in a very sincere way, which is really important because anybody can write anything. And the admissions officers, they're extremely skilled at seeing people who just kind of come up with stuff and people who are really honest and sincere. So that's really important. And another thing I would say is that don't hesitate to reach out to universities with questions, being proactive. If you're able, visit a campus and things like that, because a lot of students might think that this won't matter. But I think this was very decisive in my application, for example, because when I was in the United States, there was a university fair where a lot of different schools, school representatives came together, and you were able to speak to them and ask them different questions. Unfortunately, we have fairs like that in Ukraine as well sometimes. So I had this incredible opportunity. So I prepared an extensive list of questions that I wanted to ask. And I went there, and I remember talking to a lot of school representatives. And I remember that a lot of them actually couldn't give me very in-depth answers, probably because most students ask them somewhat basic stuff, I was so well prepared that my questions were so specific. Some of them weren't able to help, some were better than others. But then I clearly remember talking to a representative from Holy Cross, school I eventually decided to attend. And I remember that whatever question I threw at him, his name was Andrew, he was able to answer everything perfectly. And we had an incredible conversation. I think I talked to him for about 40 minutes. Just, keep asking questions and just asking about the experiences, what it's like to be on campus. And then I remember we finished talking. I thanked him. I decided to go to some other stands with other schools. I talked to each for like 5-10 minutes, and then I again came back to Holy Cross with more questions, and we talked for another 40 minutes. And I do believe I made an impression on that officer because he was an admissions officer, and and I can't know it for sure, but Holy Cross was the school that gave me the most financial aid, while also accepting me, which is one of the reasons I decided to go there. And I do believe that this was one of the decisive things that influenced their decision, because they saw that I was proactive, that I was genuinely curious about their school, and I wanted to ask questions. So that was my experience.
Thank you so much, Viktor, for sharing some great tips with our students and also for sharing your personal experience and your perspective on approaching university representatives and professors. I can just add on my side that we in Education USA, of course, are here to help you and to be the connecting link between you and US representatives, whether it be connecting you with the right admission counselor or hosting sessions such as our regular Thursday lectures, where you get to ask questions directly to a US representative or admissions counselor and get not only precise and clear answers about your specific topic of interest, but also get a more in-depth look into what the university actually is looking for in a prospective student. So definitely do not hesitate to reach out and to be proactive during the application process. Those are the key things that will help you be successful in your journey to US study. And let us move on to our next question, and that would be regarding standardized tests. So I was wondering, Viktor, how did you prepare for standardized tests, and what were some of the things that helped you during this period?
Of course. So you mean SAT and IELTS, right? So I'll be honest, I was never a big fan of those tests. Probably no one is, but I really did not like them. So, and I assume a lot of people are kind of in the same boat. So, I just had to start pretty early. I first looked at them a year before I actually need to submit them. And I just started to, looking at online for some tips and tricks, watching videos, guide, learning what some resources are that can help me with it. And then, first and foremost, there's no one secret to it other than you just got to start early and practice and practice and practice. Um, you know, I think, yeah, I also wish I could share more, but I think for me it was uh, I took some mock exams. There are some resources that allow you to do that to see your approximate score. They can't tell you for sure what kind of score you will get, but they can approximate it. So I took a couple of those. I saw that I wasn't satisfied with my score just yet, so I kept practicing and. Then doing it. And one thing I would probably recommend is that it just even though it's kind of antithetical how I approach studying in other areas, but in this case, it's really important to just know the test format very well. You should not be ever surprised by any kind of questions or anything like that. You need to know exactly what you're going to be asked, at least in what kind of format or what questions you might expect. And yeah, just keep practicing, believe in yourself. Everybody is able to do it. I saw students who, for example, for IELTS, I saw students whose English wasn't even that good, but because they just practiced so much, they were able to get a grade better than me at the time, even though I think my English wasn't that bad. So it depends on you, but yeah, just make sure you allow yourself enough time to practice and study, and you will do great.
Thank you so much for sharing this wonderful advice with our students back at home. And just to reiterate what Victor has said, practice makes perfect. And if you need any additional resources or information on the standardized tests you're looking into taking for your application, we would be happy to share these resources with you. So let us move back to one of the most burning questions of Ukrainian students looking to apply to the United States, and that would be financial aid. And is it even possible to obtain financial aid from U.S. universities? So my question to you, Victor, would be, how would you recommend that aspiring Ukrainian students go about seeking financial aid and applying for it?
Of course. So I already talked a little bit about it, right? So um, it is important to understand that it is a challenge that you do need to overcome, but it is definitely not impossible because after all, that's one of the greatest things about American schools is that they do provide financial aid. And even though if you're requesting full financial aid, it might be really tricky to get in, but it's all more the reason to make sure that to show yourself as an exceptional applicant and just make sure you really really polish your application, and like I said, that you really know who you are and what you want, and that when you're applying to a school, I think what's really important that um, the school that, like, if you expect financial aid, you want a school to think that, wow, this student, even though he's not able to afford this education, but he clearly deserves it, specifically at our school, right? So when you're approaching their supplementary essays that are specifically made for those schools, I think it's really important that you have done a lot of research in each school, and you really tailor it to them, but not in a superficial way, but sincerely think what way you can contribute to those schools, right? How can you really how you will be able to engage in conversations with other students on campus, if you really like what kind of departments they have, right? Talk about that, talk about how passionate you are about some field and how you think that there is no other school that would really allow them to flourish that well as in their school. So it's really important just to show a school you're applying to why it's special, why you think that you are the perfect applicant for the school, and you will be able to get some financial aid. So in my case, for example, when I was applying to a lot of schools, and for every single one, I was requesting financial aid, and that's why I was applying to so many. I was applying to 20. I don't know. I hesitate to recommend that everybody should do it because it was just too much workload. That was my decision because I just wanted to make sure that I will get in somewhere. But yeah, I would recommend definitely doing more than 10 if you're applying with financial aid, because you do want to maximize your chances. And when I applied, I received quite a few acceptances, and they were quite different. For example, some gave me financial aid that I wanted. Well, there was only one actually, Holy Cross. That's one of the biggest reasons I went there. But there were a lot of other schools that also gave me financial aid, just a little more than I requested. And then there were a few others that said, well, we would be happy to have you, but without financial aid, right? So there was quite a nice distribution there. So as you see, it's not impossible. I was able to get the financial aid that I needed. So like I said, the key there was that you don't just do it blindly, right? It is a lot of work, more work than probably applying anywhere else in the world, but it is definitely worth it, right? You do research on the school, you sincerely think how you will be able to contribute to the school, why it's a perfect school for you, and you put it on paper, you explain it to them, and there is a great chance that you will be able to be admitted with financial aid.
Thank you so much for your words of inspiration, Victor, and for sharing this advice with our students. To our students at home, I would just like to encourage you to feel free to ask any questions that you may have about studying in the United States, the application process, or just student life in general. We would love to hear from you and what are some of the things you're interested in. And while we wait for your questions, I would just like to ask you, Victor, a bit more about campus life. So what are some of the activities or opportunities available for international students on your campus?
Of course. There's always a lot of different opportunities. It's honestly hard to choose from. Well, first of all, in terms of campus life in general, I would love to say that we have an absolutely gorgeous, beautiful campus. It's just nice to be here. It's on a beautiful hill. So we're a little isolated from the rest of the city, but it gives you this sense of Hogwarts, kind of like that you're just in this little castle, and it feels great. But in terms of activities, there's always a lot of things, and once again, this is one of the great things about American schools is that no matter who you are, what kind of interests you have, there's always something you will enjoy. So, for example, for me, I I was engaged in a international student panel, and basically it was an opportunity specifically for international students like myself, that where I and some other students got together, and we basically came up with different activities that we thought were great for international students to take a part in, right? And there are a lot of different approaches that we took. Some are, some students might be homesick, so how do we help them feel at home? And some students might feel some cultural barrier or adjustment period. So maybe we can bring some Americans who are interested in talking to international students, and have some events, some maybe games, some other activities together. So that's what I was engaged in for 2 years, and it was absolutely incredible. I had a lot of fun. Another thing that I did was moot court. Moot court, it's a very interesting activity where you basically simulate a court proceeding, where you have two lawyers and you have a case that you study and analyze, and you present different arguments. And it might be especially great for people who might consider law school, or people who might be interested in debate or political science as well. So that's something that I did. But again, there are just so many things, right? I would definitely encourage people to look into them beforehand when you know what school you're gonna go to. Make sure you know what kind of activities the school has, because it takes a while to decide what you want to do, and there's only so much time. When I just got here, I started doing like three things at the same time, and then I realized that, well, as much as I want to do it, I also need to study, so I had to pick and choose between the activities I was involved in. But yeah, I wouldn't be worried that the school won't have something that you will be interested in, right? Just make some research, and just be ready when you come on campus. Get involved, be active, and it will be incredible experience.
Thank you so much for your answer, Victor. And we've got a question from Uliana. So Uliana, thank you so much for being with us. And Uliana is wondering about motivation letters. In particular, could you give any tips on writing a motivation letter, and what makes a good motivation letter?
Absolutely. So I think I covered it a little bit, but I can definitely give some tips. I think then this is a little basic, but what helped me in the very beginning of my process was reading a lot of very successful motivation letters from other people. And it's not to encourage you to, just copy their style or copy their ideas. No, but it's very important to look what what are the approaches that people who are successful take, right? Because there are a lot of different approaches that you might take, and it's going to depend on you what suits you, right? But you definitely want to see what works, and what options you might have, and sometimes it's good simply for inspiration, right? But another thing, it again comes back to just being sincere and really knowing what you are interested in and who you are. And I would just really caution against, just going from the perspective of, just trying to make yourself look as good as possible, and just writing an essay that's like, looks like you're the coolest guy or girl in the world. Because to be fair, when I just started my approach, even though it wasn't conscious, but I realized that was kind of the approach I was taking initially when I was like beginning to write stuff, and I was wondering why is it not working? Like I could sense that this is not as good as I wanted to get, right? And I just couldn't understand what was going on there. And then I just decided to think really deeply about it, and I realized again I wasn't sincere. Like when you write about something, you should feel like really engaged, right? You should feel like you want write even more, and like um, you want to feel that you're really putting your heart on paper, I would say. And I know this can be very tricky. I know it sounds like when I say it sounds easy, it can be really hard, and I understand it. And like I said, what helped me just looking at how other people do it, and just taking some time to sincerely think about your experiences in life, and just ask yourself honestly, why am I even doing this? Why am I applying this, right? Why I think I deserve this application, right? What really makes me special? So I think those are some of the things that help me. I think there's definitely more tips and tricks that you can learn. So I would just encourage once again to use as many resources as you can, especially Education USA, because there are people who can always look over your letters, give you some ideas, give you some tips, suggestions, and just don't hesitate to reach out.
Yes, thank you so much, Viktor, for your wonderful advice. And thank you, Elena, for reaching out. As Viktor has said, you are more than welcome to sign up for a free consultation and send in your motivation letter to our advisors to review and give you some constructive feedback on. And of course, we will also help you with your admission process and give you advice on how you can make the most out of this experience and really come one step closer to achieving your dream of studying in the United States. So my next question would actually be about opportunities to work on campus, and in particular, does your college offer opportunities to work on campus?
Absolutely. Thank you for your question. And yes, there are definitely a lot of opportunities, and I have used a lot of them because when I wasn't working during my first 2 years, um, because even though I was on financial aid, I wasn't spending a lot of money, so I was able to budget a little allowance from my parents, and it was going fine. But then, as we all know, war happened, unfortunately, and a lot of families suffered, and my family included. So I couldn't really rely on my parents anymore, and I did need to find a job. And like you said, my first thought was, well, there has to be some opportunities on campus, and there were quite a few. So when I was looking into them, there's so many, right? You can be a librarian assistant, or if you, for example, have very good writing skills, you can be I don't remember how the position is called, but you can basically help students in grades below to work on their essays, give them suggestions, things like that. You can work in dining. That's what I did. So, for example, I was a barista at our school cafe, and I was doing things like doing latte, doing the coffee, making some simple sandwiches and stuff like that. And honestly, it was a pretty good experience because I did not have experience like that before. So I think it was really nice to get into working environment, and I think it was really good for building my character, because now I had to learn to combine my studies with work. And then a bit later on, another job that I did was working at a lobby shop. Every school has a kind of like a little store where you can buy some supplies and food and stuff like that. So I was a cashier there, And yeah, the pay was not too bad, and the hours were great, and it was great experience in kind of not very uh, stressful environment, because people you work with are very friendly. A lot of them are students just like you, and the advisors are also really, really nice. So yeah, I'm really grateful actually that I got this experience before going and having like a real job, because it's kind of like easing you into it. But yeah, in general, there's a lot of different opportunities, and if you feel like you might be interested in working, don't worry, you will be able to find them. And as a student on an F1 visa, basically we are able to work up to 20 hours a week on campus. So that's how it works. Although as a Ukrainian student, due to things going on in Ukraine, I was actually able to get a special permission that I applied to work off campus for as many hours as I want. But that's something you have to apply to. But every Ukrainian student would be able to work for up to 20 hours on campus.
Thank you so much, Viktor, for sharing your perspective and your experiences with working on campus. It was wonderful to learn more about your life in general, studying in the United States. And I guess my final question would be about the general one, and that would be, what are some of the advice you could share with prospective Ukrainian students who are looking to apply to the United States?
Absolutely. Let me think about it for a second, because I feel like I've been giving out a lot of advice. Um,
What is maybe one major thing you would like students or our viewers to take away from today's meeting?
Yeah, one major thing I feel like I've been reiterating, it's let this college process kind of be also a part of your character building. Don't treat it as just another step in your life, because it is, but it is very formative. And I think a big reason of the person I am today is because during that very stressful time of my life, I was applying to 20 schools, but I was writing so many essays, but because I sincerely tried to put my heart into every single essay, I felt like I myself changed after every single essay that I've written. And I think it was a very transformative experience that also helped me later on in my education. So yeah, just treat it as don't treat it as something to just get over with, because it will be stressful. That's something I can guarantee you. But at the same time, it will you can make it very pleasurable for yourself, even as crazy as it sounds, right? Because after every essay, because for example, every school will ask you a very different question, and they might be very specific, right? And after giving some sincere thought to every one of those questions, you really learn something new about yourself, right? You yourself start understanding yourself better, and you will be able to express it even better in the following essays. So I would just say the reason I think it's such an important advice is because the application process can be very tricky for a lot of students. It is challenging, I cannot deny it. But it is very possible, and there is no reason to let yourself get scared. Rather, view it as a good opportunity for your personal growth, and also something that will define your future in many ways. So that would be what I say.
Thank you so much for such wonderful advice. And just from my side, I would like to say one thing that I always share with my students, and that is, if you persevere and keep believing in yourself, then you can achieve everything you set your mind to. And as you see, studying in the United States is not some lofty dream or a castle in the sky. It's something that is quite realizable, and something that you can actually make a reality and make a daily part of your life. So keep working on your motivation essay, keep polishing your transcript, keep working on your academics, so that you have the best possible chance of being admitted to the university of your dreams and actually making this dream a reality. Thank you so much to our wonderful viewers, and thank you, Viktor, for being with us, for sharing your experiences, and for inspiring our students to keep working on themselves, to stay true to themselves, and to really look at the application process to US universities as a process of self-discovery and self-improvement as well. I wish you all the best of luck in your studies, and if you have any questions or any misgivings about applying to the United States, please do not hesitate to reach out to Education USA and sign up for a free consultation. Our wonderful advisors are always here with you to support you and to provide you the necessary resources and materials that will help you on your journey to US study. I wish you the best of luck, stay safe, and stay with Education USA.
Thank you.